Personally, I've always found drawing in perspective daunting and even scary. As someone who knew nothing about it, it always looked too technical and advanced for me to tackle. So I'm here today to uncover what perspective drawing really is, and hopefully bring you a little bit closer to the concept. Hey, I'm Stel, and this video is part of an ongoing series I have where I teach myself and you the fundamentals of art, one topic a month. In today's video, I'll be providing you with some basic perspective theory, an in-depth weekly plan of effective practice you can follow to learn perspective, and a full playlist of videos on this topic that I've found the most helpful while studying. If you want to come along on the journey, please subscribe and like the video. Thank you. Theory. What is perspective? Simply put, perspective is the tool we use to depict three-dimensional objects on a two-dimensional surface, the paper or the canvas. By using perspective in your drawing, you create the illusion of three-dimensional space and the illusion of objects having form and volume instead of looking like they're flat stickers. Everything you see is in some sort of perspective. It's the way we see the world around us. After trying to understand perspective for so long and watching so many technical explanations, I managed to come up with a little simple example to help you understand it quickly. Imagine that one day you're just standing around on an endless flat surface and a floating cube appears. This cube is right in front of you. You, naturally, want to take out your phone to take pictures of this floating cube and show all your friends what you saw. As you're taking pictures, you notice something. When you point the camera straight ahead, the line where the ground meets the sky is right in the middle of this cube. When you get on your tiptoes and point the camera down towards the cube, this line moves up. And when you crouch and point the camera up towards the cube, the line will move down. This is called the horizon line. Now, this floating cube has parallel lines. If you were to extend the horizontal parallel lines until they met the horizon line, you'd find that they converge into a single point. This is called a vanishing point. Because you're taking these pictures of the cube with the camera looking straight ahead at its face, you'll find that there is only one vanishing point. This means that you're looking at this cube in one point perspective. But imagine now that you wanted to take a couple more pictures of this floating cube from different angles, in case your friends don't believe you. You take a few steps to the left, so your phone's camera is now pointed at the edge of this cube. You take 3 more pictures, one while standing on your tiptoes, one while just normally standing, and one while crouching. Now you find another interesting phenomenon happening. There's another set of converging lines. Extend them until they touch, and they once again converge into a vanishing point on the horizon line. Boom! 2 vanishing points. That's 2-point perspective already. Finally, you get the courage to walk even closer towards this mysterious floating cube and take 3 more pictures. The photo you take while normally standing turns out pretty much the same as the one before. So, okay, again, these sets of lines converge to this vanishing point, and these sets of lines converge to this one. But what's that? You notice that in the photos you took from below and above, these vertical lines have started converging because of how close you got to the cube. How curious! But now, instead of converging at the horizon line, they meet above or below it. That's the 3rd vanishing point. Therefore, you have 3-point perspective in your photos, and a fun floating cube to show your friends. Now you know the basic elements that you'll need for perspective drawing: a horizon line, 1 or more vanishing points, and lines that converge in the vanishing point. We call this the perspective grid. The final thing you need is an object to draw. The object we started with is the cube because it has all 3 dimensions as its lines, so it explains perspective most efficiently. It has width, height, and depth. Starting with the cube will enable us to draw literally anything in perspective later on. Here's a heads up. This amount of theory will not be enough for you to learn perspective entirely, since my explanation was very simplified, but it works for the purpose of quickly grasping the basic rules of 3-dimensional space. How can you actually apply this? Okay, you got the basics of the theory, but what now? Well, I can't quite engrave perspective into your brain in a short video, but I can show you how to study it and give you the practices and resources I found to be the most helpful. After doing my own studies and trying out different ways to practice, I've come up with a plan that will get you better at perspective over the span of 1 week. I'll try to go really in-depth, explaining these exercises and showing you how to do them. But if you still feel like you need more clarification, please leave a comment or join my Discord server and ask. I'll try to help as much as I can. Here's an overview of the plan. You can pause and take a screenshot of it if you'd like to follow it. Day number 1, practicing cubes in perspective. For your first day, we're starting off easy. Using a ruler, draw a horizon line. Mark a dot on the horizon line around the center. This will be your one vanishing point. From the vanishing point, still using a ruler, draw converging lines. These will be your perspective grid. Now try to fill the page with a couple cubes, using the ruler and grid you've set up like this. Draw transparent cubes, with the back edges showing. Remember that in 1-point perspective, only one set of lines will converge. All the other lines will be straight and parallel. Let's move on to 2-point perspective. Draw your horizon line and 2 dots towards the other edges of the horizon. Using 2 different colors, draw lines converging in the vanishing points. Now, using the same principles as before, draw cubes. Remember that it's 2-point perspective, meaning that 2 sets of lines will converge and 1 set of lines will be parallel. Once you fill this page, give 3-point perspective a try. Place your horizon line, avoiding the center of the page. Here's a reminder. You'll have a hard time getting 3-point perspective if your horizon line is around the center, like I explained through the example. Place 2 vanishing points on the line, with the 3rd vanishing point being way above or way below the horizon line. Draw your cubes, having in mind that no lines will be parallel here. Try to do at least a few cubes in 3-point perspective. And you're done for the day. Day 2. Estimated cubes in perspective. For the second day, you'll be doing a similar exercise, just in reverse. Use a ruler to place your horizon line. Place 1 vanishing point, but now try to estimate how the cubes will look without using the grid. First, place dots where you think the cube's points will be, then connect them. Once you've done a few cubes, check how far off you are from the vanishing point, using a ruler to extend the cube's lines. Doing this is difficult and helps with developing your intuition for estimating perspective free-handed. Expect to be terrible at it, and don't worry too much about getting it wrong. This is exactly why you're doing the exercise, to learn. After filling a page of cubes in 1-point perspective, try to fill a page of cubes in 2-point perspective. After that, only do a couple cubes in 3-point perspective, as it's the most difficult. Day 3. Putting cylinders in cubes. For the 3rd day, you'll take the cubes you drew on day 1 and now draw cylinders in them. Pick a side of the cube that you want the cylinder to face. Draw diagonal lines from the points that are across from each other. Their intersection is going to be the center of your circle. Draw the circle inside the square, and then repeat the process for the other circle as well, and then connect them. Fill all your cubes from day 1 with cylinders like this. But I already hear your cries. Stell, drawing cubes and cylinders over and over again is so boring. I want to draw cool buildings or people. How do we put those in perspective? Well, hold on to your horses because I have an answer to that as well. First, you'll practice turning cubes into simple objects, and then into people or whatever else you want to draw. Day 4. Study of an object in perspective. For your 4th day, you'll take a photo of an object in your house, or a photo of a building. The complexity of your object of choice will determine the difficulty of this exercise. Tracing over this reference photo, try to put the whole thing into a cube. From there, you should be able to figure out the horizon line and vanishing points by extending the cube's edges until they converge. Now break the object down into smaller cubes and cylinders. Doing this will help you think of it like a 3-dimensional form and not just its outline. Now take a few more photos from different angles and do it again. Day 5. Recreating the object in perspective. For your 5th day, take yesterday's exercises and leave only the horizon line and vanishing points. Looking at your photo reference, try to recreate it using the same principles, extending lines from your vanishing points to create a cube, then dividing the object into smaller cubes and cylinders. Once you've done all this, do it all over again with all the different angles you did yesterday. Day 6 and 7. Putting figures into perspective. Doing this will take some basic anatomy and mannequinization knowledge. I have a video on anatomy coming up as part of the Fundamental series, so if you want to learn it from me, please subscribe so you don't miss the video. For now, if you don't know how mannequinization works, don't worry, because in the description I've left a video that taught me how to do it. If you don't want to do this with human figures, you can swap the references to buildings. For your 6th day, find photos of people in perspective, in simple poses. Standing is normally best for this. If you don't know where to look for references, I've left a couple of my favorite sites for reference photos in the description where you can find some really good ones. Start with putting the whole person in a cube and estimate the vanishing points and horizon line. Then, draw smaller cubes and cylinders for the different body parts, just like you did with the object in previous exercises. The body parts, most of the time, won't align with the perspective grid because the human body is very mobile and not made of cubes. This exercise will help a lot with understanding foreshortening. If you're having trouble with it, there's a video by David Finch linked in the description that will really help you. For your 7th day, take yesterday's drawings and leave only the horizon line and vanishing points. Just like with the objects on day 5, reverse engineer the figure. Looking at the reference photo, start with a big cube and work your way through the body parts. In the end, compare your drawings with the ones from yesterday. Bonus exercise: drawing multiple people in perspective in the same scene. This bonus exercise is one I picked up from a YouTube video that you can find linked in the description. You should watch it to be able to do the exercise, because David Finch explains and shows you how to do it really well. The exercise works on the same principles as before. By putting the entire figure in a cube, you can estimate how other figures in the same scene would look and where they'd be in the scene. Okay, before you start, let's establish some ground rules for this weekly plan. Rule number 1. There's not a specific amount of daily time you need to spend on each exercise. You just have to make sure you do them to the best of your ability, without any rushing. Take however long you want for these exercises, and if you need to, you can adjust the weekly plan to fit your schedule. It doesn't have to be only a week. You can extend it to your liking. Rule number 2. Forget your fear of messing up. This is practice. Inevitably, some of it will look terrible, and that's okay. The knowledge you take away from it will be invaluable. Rule number 3. We're not looking for perfect. We're looking for believable. You don't need to construct everything with complete precision. Even rough estimates are usually enough for your perspective to feel right. Rule number 4. Remember to have a good time. If you see that your mood is getting worse while studying, take a break and come back to it later. If you want to get feedback on your work, you can join my Discord server and share it there. If you end up sharing any of it online, please tag me so I can see it. More theory. My brief explanation was good, but there are way more knowledgeable artists out there that helped me with these concepts. Before you actually practice, I strongly encourage you to first watch the playlist of the most helpful perspective videos I found during my time studying. I've watched a ton, and these ones genuinely significantly improved my understanding of perspective. You can find the full playlist in the description. And if you want to learn even more in depth, I recommend looking for the book called Perspective Made Easy by Ernest Norling. If this video was informative, please like it and subscribe. I know that was a lot of information at once, so I've left a brief summary in the pinned comment of this video for you to review what you learned today. Please reply to it if you have any suggestions. And if you have any questions, I encourage you to join my Discord server and ask them, and I'll try to help to the best of my ability. If you'd like to see more of my art, you can check out my other socials listed in my link tree, or just search Stelora on most platforms. And finally, if you really like what I do, you could support the channel by buying me a coffee. Thank you for staying until the end, and happy painting!